Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center and I'm delighted to be joined with Jessica with her movie Gen 28. Let's take a look at the clip.
Seriously, I mean, come on, what's going on?
It's nothing.
Do you not feel well, or?
I don't know.
All right, just get you something to eat, that should help.
I'm not hungry.
Well, why didn't you say anything?
I did. Hey, Jen, get off me!
Am I missing something?
Jessica, thank you so much for joining us and thank you for making such a fantastic film, an important film. For those that haven't seen your film, tell us a brief synopsis.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. Greatly appreciate it. So, Gen 28 is about the misinterpreted gray area of sexual assault. It shines a light on that and showing that it's actually not so gray once you take a closer look at it. So the film is about Jen and Adam, who were set up by a mutual friend. They go on a first date. They come back to Adam's apartment afterwards, and everything's really lovely. They're flowing, they're connecting. You think it's going to go really well. And then they start to have sex. It starts off as consensual, and then Jen asks him to stop. He doesn't, and then they have a conversation about that afterwards.
Jessica, the way you set up the film was absolutely brilliant. Like, it really was. I just hope that you know that we're really proud that you made a film like this, because we've had a lot of films about domestic violence, but I think a lot of them, it's rare we see a film that is, starting as consensual and then turns into not. And, it's such a gray cloud over, things that happen, and I don't think people realize what one goes through, particularly for the, for the person that's getting abused in that way, because just because it started consensual doesn't mean that it's all the way through consensual.
Yeah.
And you orchestrated that so well, because I can only imagine this happens time and time again around the world consistently. Did you always know that you wanted to kind of go in that direction,
Yeah, so the story is based off of my own personal survivor story. So I knew the part of the gray area that I wanted to talk about, because a lot of people, even now, believe that if consent is given at first, that means it is given forever and cannot be taken away, and that is exactly not how it goes. Consent is a conversation, an ongoing conversation. And so I really wanted to focus on that, because I do feel like the media, television, films, they really talk about this very black and white area of sexual assault where it's like a stranger in a dark alleyway, and that's just not how it happens for most people. And I've gotten a lot of feedback when other women and men see Gen 28 and they're like, wow, that same thing happened to me, or a very similar situation happened to me. And it's so much more widespread than I even thought before going into this process and into this project. And so I think it's really important to focus on that specific part of the gray area.
Absolutely. Because
it really hones in on just like the interpersonal connection between two people and how you really have to listen to that other person. And no offense, I feel like there's a lot of bad programming for men in society in general. And so there's a lot of men putting themselves ahead of their partners and thinking about what they want instead of communicating. And that's where the conversation comes in. You're with another human being. You need to be aware of who they are, what they want, and put them on the same level of equality as yourself.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I think that's, I'm so glad that you not only made this story, and you, listen, I'm also very thankful you took on all the roles that you did in front and behind camera. I mean, congratulations on making. How was this for you? Because this was part of your journey, and then you also were were in it as well, and the whole experience. How was that for you, taking on all of those kind of roles with this?
It was very intense.
Yeah,
very intense. After I did Gen 28, I was like, I'm never producing again. That was it. But of course, I'm already producing my next project.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
It just happens. But it was a great learning experience. I mean, I ran the crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo, which was like a whole exercise in marketing and putting yourself out there and not being afraid to ask for money from literally every single person that you know. So that was amazing lesson in marketing. And then once the pre-production happened, just like, I didn't know that I had to get insurance for set and have people sign contracts. Like, I didn't know any of this. And we paid everybody and we made it like, it was a very real independent set, which was amazing. And so I did bring on another producer to help me out with that, but I had the last say, which I really enjoyed, to be honest.
For sure. As you deserve, it's your story.
Right, and from writing it just, because I wasn't the director, which was very wonderful, because I don't think I would have been able to write, produce, be the star, and then also direct it. So I had my amazing director, Ian Landry, who helped me with all of that. But yeah, just even being the writer, being able to have the final say as the producer, and then starring in it was incredible. I will say, though, that on set, I feel like I wasn't, even though the story was based off of my personal story, I didn't have enough space to really prepare as much as I would have liked to for the role, because I was wearing the producer hat so often. So if I were to do it again, I think I would have given myself maybe like 2 months of pre-production instead of just 1 month, and kind of like given it more space and time. But we learn from every project.
Absolutely. I mean, in some respects, though, I mean, given the actual situation, nothing can really prepare you for the horrible situation of what that story turned into as well. So, but listen, from our perspective, you really did a fantastic job. Now, it's fascinating, really, isn't it, when you write something, you're starring something, and then you had someone direct it. So, how did you work with your director, like with your story, and yet you were in it? How was that experience for you?
Yeah, it was great, honestly. She was with me from the very beginning. So I'm part of this weekly writers group, and I just wrote this script more as a therapy session for myself. I had no intention of producing it. And then I put it up and people were like, this is really good. Like, you should make this. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be a director. I've never made a film before, because this is my first film that I ever actually wrote, produced, and thank you, I appreciate that. And Ian just like shot her hand up and she's like, I will direct it for you. And I was like, I love that enthusiasm.
Wow.
Let's just go with it. So we had several meetings, and she also helped me with the rewrites, being like, well, think about this and what about this? And we talked through it endlessly. I don't even know how many drafts I did, like probably somewhere upwards of like 50 drafts of this thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a whole process. But then she really guided me through the crowdfunding process, and like helped me make the video for that, which was great to have somebody on my team on that part of things. And then she was so supportive through the casting process and on set. And then she actually edited the film. We got somebody else to do the color and the sound mixing, but she edited it. And then, it was great. But I would definitely say you need to have someone who understands the vision of what you're doing. And she and I were really on the same page about, we wanted the story to be raw. We wanted it to be real. We didn't want it to be a PSA. We really wanted it to be a slice of life, these two people that you're seeing interact. And I think just having that baseline of understanding of the story and how we wanted to tell it really made the process working together much easier than if we were, had differing opinions.
No, most definitely. But aside from not being a PSA, I mean, this is definitely a universal, story for a lot of people that have gone through, sadly, an education for others. It was so disheartening that you got this guy who doesn't get it, which is just absurd, when you see what your character, went through. What did you want your audience to take from your film? Because has it ever come across in your mind that you wanted to sort of like deliver it in a certain way?
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted the audience to understand both sides of the situation. So I didn't want to make the perpetrator, Adam, our main character, I didn't want to make him like an awful, terrible human being, because that's usually not what happens. If this is something that like almost every single woman experiences, I can't imagine that every single man is like the ultimate villain in those situations. Like, again, it's bad programming. It's that we don't talk about this in society at all. I mean, like, yes, the Me Too movement helps, but like still there's so much like information and so much we just have to go so much deeper with it, really, than just being on the surface. So yeah, we wanted to show both sides. We also wanted to make sure that people at the very end felt as though the conversation wasn't over, because I wanted people to finish the conversation with the people that they had seen the film with. So we wanted it to be a starting point for other people to finish afterwards. And also just to show that again, the whole consent is a conversation.
Yeah.
Just really wanted to show people that, hey, this is an ongoing thing, and it's not black and white at all. I will say the other thing we wanted to really get across was that we wanted to show the story through Jen's eyes. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of films are made through the male perspective because there are lots of male directors and male writers and people on male crews. So we really wanted to show it through the woman's perspective. And so we wanted to make the audience feel extremely comfortable in the beginning, like, oh, you just went on this date with this really cute guy and you're having a great time and you're connecting. And then that shift when the sex turns non-consensual.
Yeah.
Really wanted to give the audience that experience of, whoa, I thought this was going in a totally different direction and now we're here, and to actually put the audience in the shoes of the woman who's experiencing the assault.
Yeah, and you delivered that so well. I really felt it from Jen's perspective, and something we should all be continuing to talk about. What I'd love to say as well is that it was so special because this was part of our all-female directors program celebrating Women's Independence Month, which was so wonderful. And we were just talking earlier about how great it was to have so many incredible female directors. How was the experience for you at the film festival? Because it was so special, all congratulating each other. It was just really, really lovely to see.
Yeah, it was a super supportive environment. I mean, just being up on stage at the end during the Q&A with all female filmmakers, I was like, okay, we've arrived. We are here now, and we get to tell our stories, and hearing about what the other women are working on and being able to follow up with them. I was like, oh, I want to work with these women. And it's just so cool to be able to see, it's a whole stage of women, and I can choose any of them to connect with, and I don't have to go searching on women in media to find the token female directors. They're right here. So that was an amazing experience. Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, lastly, what is next for you?
So I'm working on 2 projects right now. Mm-hmm. One is going to be my first feature film that follows. Thank you. Yes, it is much different than making a short film, I will say.
Yes. For anyone who doesn't know, it's a lot more work, would you say?
A lot more work. Yeah. 90 pages versus 12 pages is a big leap. But it's going to be following the same themes as Gen 28, so it's not the same exact story, but it's going to be following the story of a survivor of Peter Nygard, who is currently in jail right now, who's a Jeffrey Epstein type, for people who don't know. Look him up. It's crazy that this person exists and nobody knows about him. So I'm writing a story from the perspective of one of his survivors. And then I'm also working on a hyper comedic project because that other project is so depressing.
Good balance,
Yeah. I need to have a balance. And so this one people can find on social media, Haha Hypers Official, on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. And that's Hypers with a Z, so Haha Hypers Z Official. And it is just about this wonderful community of people who hype things up and spread joy and positivity. So just really sketch comedy, but we're going to be turning that into a mockumentary and then be submitting that to festivals.
Oh, great. These both very, very great projects. Just want to say again, thank you, Jessica, for bringing your film to us. Your first one you wrote, produced, and starred in as well. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing Gen 28, a very, very important film. So thank you very much.
Yes, thanks for having me. Excited to come back.
Yes, Jessica, everybody.